Are you ready to feel the roar? We certainly are. It is time for DTM. We are here in Zolder in Belgium. The sun is shining and we are excited because there are only 5 more qualifyings and 5 more races to go. And it's all about this man, Nico Müller, who is leading the championship. 14 points ahead of Robin Freins, and the man's already sitting in the car, so ready for the qualifying, because obviously at this point in time it's all about collecting as many points as possible, and that's why qualifying, of course, is also essential to do well. So here's your commentator. Have fun.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning. It's going to be another fascinating qualifying session, this, because although the sun is shining, as you can see, and as Verena said, and it's a fairly still day, we have got a damp circuit once again. So it looks like, the pictures we've seen before we came on air, it might be wet tyres for everybody at the beginning of this session. It's perhaps not quite as damp, to the eye at least, as it was for the start of the session yesterday. But René Rast won't care either way, because he was quick in the dry, he was quick in the damp, and he was the driver who took pole position yesterday. So cars preparing to head out of the garages to the end of the pit lane as we get set for the start of the session, which is just about 3.5 minutes away now here at Zolder. And yesterday, René Rast...
20 seconds until we queue up. We can prepare for engine start.
René Rast taking the win, taking the pole position, having the perfect day, and winning by over 18 seconds in the end from Robin Freins. And this man, Nico Müller, who had a battling performance after not feeling comfortable with the car in qualifying, only being 7th on the grid, his worst quali of the year, and came through to finish in 3rd place. Some good overtakes, including a particularly good overtake around the outside of Timo Glock. 4th place yesterday in the race was to Timo Glock, who started on the front row of the grid, almost got pole position until this man snatched it right at the end of the 20-minute qualifying session yesterday. Right, look back at René Rast. Feeling for spots of rain with a glint in the eye. I think we're okay though. There's none falling at the moment, and it's pretty blue skies. As the ITR chairman who oversees the championship, Gerhard Berger, the ex-Grand Prix racer, overseeing the starts procedure for this qualifying system here. We're back here at Zolder next weekend, and then just Hockenheim to come. So, as Verena said, 5 qualifying sessions remain. And what we do know from yesterday, after yesterday's results, is that there are now only mathematically 3 drivers that can win the championship, because there are 140 points still up for grabs. 5 race wins possible, 125 points for that, and 3 pole positions possible. 5 pole positions possible with 3 points each, so that's another 15. So 140 points available. And Sheldon Van Der Linde, who's 4th in the championship, is 161 points adrift of Nico Müller. So it's only Müller, Freins and Rast that can now win the Drivers' Championship. And we could see the team's title being decided today, because Team AB Sportsline just need to score 16 points to wrap up the title. With the team standings being based on the scores of the 2 drivers put together from both qualifying and the races. So a maximum of 48 points available. And even if Team Rosberg, who are their nearest rivals, who went well yesterday with, of course, the race victory for René Rast, even if they were to score absolute maximum points, get pole position, get a 1st and a 2nd in the race, get pole position and 2nd on the grid, and also the top 2 positions in the race, it would still only require 16 points for AB Sportsline to seal the deal, and it might well be less than that. That's only if Team Rosberg have the absolute perfect day. So it's looking likely that Team AB Sportsline are going to wrap up the team's title, which they just missed out on last year. They're just over the shoulder of Gerhard Berger is Thomas Biermeier, the boss of the team principal, and to his left, Dieter Gass, the motorsport director for Audi in DTM. And what a season they have had so far. Although a much better day for BMW yesterday. And as I said yesterday, every time the conditions play their part, BMW, although they might not quite have a car which is as quick in outright dry conditions, they do come good with their strategies and get cars up there. So yesterday it was a pretty decent day for BMW. They almost got their first pole position of the season with Timo Glock, as I said, and Timo up there finishing the race in 4th place. And there were some other good performances as well. One of the standout performances yesterday, I thought, was from Harrison Newey, who qualified 8th, his equal best, and then had a good start, got up to 5th, fended off, as the session goes live, fended off Nico Muller in the early parts of the race up until the pit stops. The mandatory pit stops came around. Nico deciding that he'd had enough, went in fairly early to try and undercut Harrison Newey and a couple of others during the pit stops, which worked for him. So Harrison dropped back a bit after the pit stop windows, but came back with some, again, good overtakes, including a really good one on Marco Wittmann to get himself up to 5th place and just behind Timo Glock in 4th. So best result of the season so far in his debut DTM campaign for Harrison Newey yesterday, with a 5th place finish, which has put him up now to 11 points and 14th in the championship. We'll see what he can do here, but he's been quick all weekend long. So Timo Glock, what can he do? No doubt a little bit disappointed to have not been able to get the podium after qualifying so well. There's Robert Kubica, who tried a 2-stop strategy yesterday, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him. You can see with the blue sidewalls on the tyres, that denotes that they are on the wet tyres, because it is absolutely a damp circuit, very similar to the conditions that we had yesterday. Trying to get their vantage point here, looking from the banking, while the fans bright and early to watch the cars get up to the tyres up to temperature, the brakes up to temperature. On the low slung camera, you can see there's lots of glare as well from the early morning sunshine bouncing off the wet tarmac here at Zolder. So Robin Frijns yesterday coming home in 2nd place. That was his 4th consecutive podium finish, and from the last 9 races he's been on the podium 8 times now, so having a terrific campaign, and just 14 points adrift now of Nico Muller. So getting to the point where he could move ahead of him in the championship if race results go his way today. Team AB Sportsline drivers, the 2 drivers at the top of the standings, with Nico Muller on 257, Robin Frijns on 243, and René Rast, the other driver that can still win the championship, closing the gap. He started the weekend 47 points adrift, he's now 34 points adrift, and 223 points he has got, picking up his 3rd race win of the season last year. Teams getting ready, doing their stretches, early morning stretches. They're going to play their part today as well, and we saw how important the pit stops can be yesterday. Mike Rockenfeller, who started the race very well and looked like he could be going for a podium finish after running in the top 3 early on, came into the pits, and we saw him have a very slow pit stop. The reason was, it transpired, a broken airline, which apparently is something they'd suffered during free practice on Friday as well. They changed the system and had almost exactly the same problem on the pit stop in the race yesterday. So essentially the airline is plumbed into the relevant socket in the car and boosts it up on the jacks, but the front of the car didn't go up on the jacks properly. That's why the wheel gun wasn't aligned, and it lost about 19-20 seconds during the pit stop. There is Mike Rockenfeller. He did have great pace though, and he came back from the back of the field to get himself back into the points yesterday, so he'll be one to watch today, I reckon, as well. 8th place from the back with 20 seconds given away in that pit stop was a very good effort for him. The one retiree we saw yesterday was the driver that's just coming through shots, Jamie Green, who unfortunately had 1 or 2 bits of contact with Philip Eng. Philip getting a warning for changing directions to cover his position from Jamie around about 2/3 of the way through the race, and then Jamie picking up damage to the front right corner of his number 53 Team Rosberg Audi. Teammate 2, the man you're looking at, René Rast. However, he was able to continue for a few laps, but Jamie, whose car you can see now has been completely repaired, the water temperatures were rising, so he brought it in, even though he was running in the points in 10th place at the time being. Track limits warnings coming up already. There were quite a few of those in the session yesterday. And even on his pole position lap, René Rast was under investigation for going too much over the curbs, but he kept the time. So far, Robin Frijns has set a 1:33.694, and getting almost off the track there. A big sideways moment for the championship leader, Nico Muller. See, there's a fair bit of spray coming off the back of the cars as well. 1:28 was the best time in the damp conditions yesterday. Robin Frijns and Jamie Green, who are both about to improve their lap times at the moment after the first run through. It's Frijns, Muller, Green, the top 3. Frijns has gone quickest in the first sector. Green has gone very quick in the second sector. In fact, he is something like 7/10 of a second quicker than Robin Frijns through that second sector with a 33.9. So this is going to be to the top of the times for Jamie Green, should be at least, and a 1:31.836 is the new benchmark time. It's going to get quicker and quicker as the track dries out, of course. That's going to be a fascinating session, this, given how it took a while to dry out yesterday, as René Rast goes to the top of the times now. Given how it dried out yesterday, I'm not sure we're going to see slick tyres at the end of this session. It's cooler today as well, around about 10 degrees. So a couple of degrees cooler than yesterday. Right, Robin Frijns pushed back down the order now. Ferdinand Habsburg's got himself up into the top 3, and Robin had a moment as well. 2 wheels on the grass. Understeering in these conditions. Habsburg, absolute best in the second and third sectors, was what put him into 3rd place. So Rast is quickest, Green is 2nd now, Habsburg 3rd, Harrison Newey going really well again in 4th place, Duval 5th, Muller in 6th, Rockenfeller, Scherer, Wittmann and Van Der Linde round out the top 10. Robin Frijns is 11th, but he's just done the absolute best first sector with a 28.175. Rast's ahead of him on the circuit. He did have the best first sector up until Frijns went through just behind him. Duval's had a lap time cancelled, you saw from the graphic that's just gone off screen. That was for track limits as well. As Jamie Green getting on. Absolute best in the middle sector, personal best in the first sector. So this could well see him go back to the top of the times. He's only a 10th down on René Rast anyway. It's Team Rosberg 1-2 at the moment, trying to keep their hopes alive for the team's championship. Jamie Green needing a good result after some bad luck this season so far. 1:30.572 for him. What about Rast? He goes through a little bit slower, 1:30.730. Duval just crossing the line, goes 3rd, 1:30.887. Ferdinand Habsburg, absolute best in the second sector, absolute best in the final sector for Rockenfeller, and Frijns goes to the top of the times with a 1:30.197. He goes quickest in the final sector. Changes every time somebody comes across the line, this. So it's Habsburg, Frijns, Green now the top 3, Rast 4th, Muller 5th, Rockenfeller 6th, Newey goes 3rd. So Harrison Newey there, you can see just coming into Erst at turn 1, goes to the top, to the 3rd place in the times with the 1:30.425, 4/10 off the best time, which now belongs to Ferdinand Habsburg. As soon as you say somebody's name, they disappear from the position they're in and somebody takes their place. So it's going to be like this all the way through this 20-minute session, I suggest. And Habsburg's going even quicker. There he is, number 62, 1:30.087 is his best lap. He's just gone quicker than anybody through the first sector of the lap. Jamie Green's on another flyer as well. He was first about, 45 seconds ago. He's 4th now, but he's done the absolute best middle sector. There is Jamie coming through, so he could be en route back towards provisional pole position. René Rast was a lot quicker through the first sector as well. It wasn't an absolute best, but he was half a second quicker than Green in the first sector and only a fraction slower than him in the middle sector. So whatever Green does here, I think Rast might be able to go above him. Green's going to go through and goes to the top of the times. So I think Rast is quicker. Through he comes, over the line he goes, and to the top of the times, 1:29.619. Duval on a decent lap as well with personal best sector times, but he stays in 4th place. And Rast is now joined on the provisional front row of the grid by Robin Frijns, who does a 1:29.7. Rocky with a 1:29.8 is 3rd, and Jamie Green 1:30.033, 4th. Habsburg was 1st. He's now 5th, so 1:30.087. Duval 1:30.107 is 6th, and then Muller 7th. Newey's gone into the pits in 8th place. Fabio Scherer has just come into the top 10 in 9th. Marco Wittmann currently in 10th place. And Timo Glock, who went really well in these conditions yesterday, he's currently only in 11th place. Still going slower than they were at the peak of yesterday. 1:28.987 was the pole time yesterday in similar conditions, but right at the end of the session, almost the last across the line, was René Rast. He started his final lap with 15 seconds left on the clock as Glock goes through and goes 3rd. That's more like it. So Timo, the best of the BMWs by a long shot. Look at the graphic on the left of the picture. Timo Glock, BMW emblem, 3rd. And you have to go all the way down to 11th place before you find the next BMW, which is Sheldon Van Der Linde, who's been a very strong qualifier for BMW this season. Still a long way to go in the session, though. We're not even halfway through it yet. Jamie Green has joined Harrison Newey in the pits for now. René Rast quickest, and on another quick lap, absolute best in the first sector, and the middle sector and the third sector were personal best, which is why he's crept down to a 1:29.242 now. Cancellation of lap time for Fabio Scherer, We've got Robin Freins on a good lap as well. He's about to cross the line and go second. So he goes above Rocky, 129.315 seconds. So take a breath. 129.2 for Rast, 129.3 for Freins, second, 129.5 for Rocky. Becomes third. Why is that? Because some cancellation of lap times. Philip Eng's had a lap time cancelled. Rocky with a 129.5. Has Freins had a lap time cancelled as well? Possibly. He's on another good lap though, so it might not matter. He's gone through, his best is now 129.726. So Rast 129.2, Rocky 129.5, back to second. Freins, I think, had the last lap taken away, so 129.7. It becomes his best time, so he's down to third. Van Der Linde said he was a good qualifier, a very good qualifier. He's gone fourth, and Timo Glock has gone onto the front row of the grid at 129.338. And Thomas Biermeier's best driver at the moment is Robin Freins, fourth place. Muller, his other championship hopeful, is in sixth place. You're on board with the championship leader now, who's just been a little bit off the very fastest pace in all the sessions, really, in free practice 1, free practice 2, in qualifying, and a really good race, but he's done well to get himself on the podium yesterday, and as he said, it sends a signal out when we're not having a great day, we can still get on the podium. Pulled off, as I said, some good moves, good strategy. He's coming into the pits now. We've already seen Rast coming into the pits. Freins in the pits as well.
We might have to wait behind him on the gantry, so we will reduce also half a degree of wing. Copy.
Right, so they're going to adjust the rear wing, which means they're going to take half a degree off.
Yeah, on the sector times, Nico, I keep you updated. Main sector now was sector 1, but where you didn't improve in the last lap, where we miss 4 tenths to René, 1.5 tenths to Robin. Sector 2, 1 tenth to René. Sector 3, 1 tenth to Robin. Copy.
It's a lot, isn't it? 4 tenths to losing the first sector of the lap. So taking half a degree, because obviously half a degree off the wing, give it more straight line speed, a little bit less aero grip in the corners, because obviously they've changed that to set it up for damp conditions, but the track is drying. You see the part of the pit lane is becoming completely dry now. The first sector of the lap takes in the first 4 turns through the left at Erst, through Streckenbach, the second corner, Canal, and then the 4th turn they go through. You see the adjustments to the rear wing. Lucien Bianchi corner, named after the Italian-born Belgian racing driver, ex-Grand Prix racer, suddenly lost his life early in testing at Le Mans at Le Sarthe for the 1969 Le Mans 24 Hours, which he won the year before. Lucien Bianchi, he had taken victory at Le Mans in 1968 with Ford, just a couple of years after that first famous Ford GT40 victory. And there's an example of somebody making the track limits warnings flash up. Nothing you can do sometimes, though. It's not deliberately trying to cut the corner. It's just trying to get the car slowed down in these slippery conditions, with Philip Eng and there Fabio Scherer both having moments as well. Just understeering into the corner. That's Fabio. And it's, again, just to make the point, we've got wet tyres on, yes, and it's not that wet, but sometimes in these damp, greasy conditions, the wet tyres aren't able to work as well as they can. They've got the grooves in the tyres to disperse the surface water, but when there's not really any surface water, it becomes tricky. And also you see lots of drivers running wide and running off, coming back onto the circuit, and they bring back onto the circuit mud and gravel, and that makes it even slippier, and without rain to wash that away, it becomes a very treacherous circuit. So sometimes you actually end up being at a point where you might go slower in the greasy conditions than you can actually in the wet conditions. And there's still quite a few patches under the tree cover and under the cover of the grandstands where it's in the shade and it's still relatively wet, actually. Still surface water coming off the back of the cars. Still wet tyres on, looking at the blue sidewalls. René Rast fastest at the moment, but Timo Glock has gone out early in the second part of this session and has set the absolute best first sector time, 27.774 seconds. It's going to go right down to the final minutes of the session, this. Jamie Green back out there as well. He's not on an absolute flyer yet, though. Timo Glock might be the one to watch. He's only about less than a tenth of a second slower than Rast before they came in. Rast is on a build-up lap rather than an absolute flyer. It's Van Der Linde who got himself up to third quickest just before they all came into the pits. Building up speed as René Rast comes past him. Absolute best in the second sector as well for Timo Glock. So as long as he doesn't have any mistakes in the final sector, from turn 12 onwards through the Jochenrindt chicane, the final chicane at Jackie X coming out here. He'll be coming into the picture fairly shortly. Then he should get himself onto provisional pole. Here he comes, right, he's just coming out of the final turn, about to go over the line, and Timo Glock should be going to the top of the times, which he does, 1:28.9. So that's 3/10 quicker than René Rast's previous best. Sparks fly from the front of the BMW. Terrific effort for Timo Glock. Going to get his first pole position since Hockenheim at the start of the 2018 season. Almost had it yesterday. Having a good weekend here and having a pretty good season all round. Great super slow-mo there of just how stiff these chassis are, how the sparks fly, and how they're able to ride the curbs. Looking right into the cockpit of the ex-Grand Prix racer. So Glock with a new benchmark time. Jamie Green's done a personal best in the first sector. Loic Duval's done a personal best in the second sector. And there, Fabio Scherer going off, Robin Frijns going off the road again. Big time this time though, thanks to the onboard camera. Replaying. It's easy to do, so easy to do. Get away with braking a little bit late in the dry, lock up and still get into the corner in the wet. The car just goes, skids straight on. Very fine margin of error in these conditions, but you've got to push the limits to be up there fighting for pole position. Habsburg's had a lap time taken away again for failing to manage track limits. But it's understandable in these conditions. Right, Jamie Green coming through, and that's going to put him up to 4th place. There's Timo Glock coming through again. This one isn't going to be as quick as the previous. That was a build-up lap, but I think he's going for it again now by the body language of the car as he attacks Erst at the first corner. Charging through there now, through into the right-hander at turn 2, Darren Vacht, which in the dry takes them to about 2.5 lateral G and about 190 kilometers an hour. Through turn 3 at Canal, and then through turn 4, Lucien Bianchi onto the back straight. That's a 5th gear corner as well. Lucien Bianchi, who was on the podium in the 1960s as well in Formula 1 in the Monaco Grand Prix, and was the great uncle of another driver that sadly lost his life far too young in motorsports, Jules Bianchi, back in 2014. Right. Timo Glock top of the times, René Rast 2nd, Sheldon Van Der Linde 3rd, Jamie Green 4th, Mike Rockenfeller 5th, personal best in the first lap. Robin Frijns, we've seen him go off the road, he's in 6th place, hasn't had a particularly good first sector either. It's Duval, Muller, Habsburg, Auer in the top 10, Newey 11th, and then Scherer 12th, Aberdeen 13th, Wittmann down in 14th place at the moment, with Kubica and Eng next up. Right, Rockenfeller through, Muller's done a personal best lap time, that's put him into 6th place. Mike Rockenfeller could be about to improve here if he has a good final sector, although it wasn't an improvement in the middle sector, it was still a good sector, 33.3 seconds given the conditions, only a couple of tenths off the very best. Sheldon Van Der Linde's had a good middle sector as well, personal best for him, 33.1. So a chance to maybe creep onto the front row of the grid for Sheldon Van Der Linde if he gets a good final sector. Rockenfeller could improve here though, if that final sector holds up. He comes through, over the line he goes, and he gains 1 place, up to 4th. Yellow flags waving. Duval, that's on the way into turn 1. Duval has had a lap time cancelled. And a super slow-mo of Mike Rockenfeller. And again, shown great pace here. Right up in the air as he rides the curbs on the exits to the chicanes. Right, René Rast on board with him now. Personal best in the first sector. Van Der Linde stayed 3rd. 129.352. His best time, but not quite enough to get him on the front row of the grid. Lucas Auer loses a time for, you know what, track limits, and René Rast with a good middle sector as well. So he exits the right-hander at Boulderberg, goes through the final, penultimate chicane rather, heads towards the final chicane now at Jackie X. Slows the car down to first or second gear and around about 70 kilometres an hour. Comes out of the final turn, and is this going to be enough to squeeze him ahead of Timo Glock? I'm not sure it is. It's going to be tight. Through he comes and stays second. 129.130. It's his best lap, but he's still 2/10 shy of provisional pole position. Jamie Green improves up to third place. Personal best in sectors 2 and 3. Marco Wittmann's come out to 8th, but lost a lap time for track limits. Here is Sheldon Van Der Linde, currently in 4th place. Personal best in the middle sector. We've only got 1 second left on the clock. Whoa, just about creeping through is Mike Rockenfeller. That could be critical. It's basically going to be the last one across the line. The flag came out just after he went past. So a chance for Rockenfeller maybe to do something spectacular here. Habsburg comes through on his final lap, gets himself up to 3rd. Robin Freins is only 7th at the moment, and he's going to stay in 7th place. Best lap for him, but 7th. That's where Muller started yesterday. Muller's 8th though. So the top 2 in the championship not having a particularly happy session here. René Rast not on pole position, but ahead of them, 2nd place. Timo Glock, no improvement in the first sector. Got René Rast out there as well, but he's made no, although he's on a pretty good lap, no absolute or personal best for René Rast. It's a decent lap. We can have a spectacular third sector. It might just do something. Duval's going to be 10th at best. He's taken the flag now as well. And here comes Muller. Can he get any higher than the 4th row of the grid? Over the line he comes. No, but he gains a place. 7th. Stays on the 4th row of the grid though. So René Rast on a lap, but needing to come through with a great final stint. Final sector, he crosses the line, 129.3, a couple of tenths off his best. What about Sheldon Van Der Linde? He's been bumped back down to 5th place now, and has had a good middle sector, a personal best. He could get himself, maybe, up onto the 2nd row of the grid here. Maybe better if he has a really good run to the flag. Over the line comes, he goes onto the front row of the grid. Fantastic, 128.983, and he almost snatches pole position from Timo Glock. There's just 23 thousandths of a second between them. Glock just missed out on pole yesterday, but he's got it today. Pole position for Timo Glock, and that's why he didn't improve on his final lap. Pushed a little bit too hard. Mike Rockenfeller, by the way, had a personal best on the final lap of the race. He was the one, final lap of the, felt like a race, didn't it? Final lap of the qualifying session. And that was a very good 129.4. However, as the last man through, he thought he might do something spectacular. He stayed in 6th place. He needed to find another 10th to get into the top 5. So a fantastic session that, and it's Timo Glock that gets his first pole position since the start of the 2018 season. Timo with a 128.960 second lap, takes pole position by 23 thousandths of a second from Sheldon Van Der Linde, who's going to start the race this afternoon from the front row of the grid. René Rast 3rd, and he gets a championship point as well, and of course his 2 key rivals again behind him on the grid. Ferdinand Habsburg equals his best, one of his best qualifyings in 4th place. He's had a few falls, been on the front row of the grid this year, is going well in qualifying. Jamie Green 5th place, that's his best qualifying of the season. I think 6th place for Rockenfeller, 7th for Muller, where he started yesterday. Down in 8th place for Robin Freins. We haven't seen Robin out of the top 3 in qualifying so far this season. Jonathan Aberdeen 9th, Marco Wittmann 10th, Duval 11th, Auer 12th, Kubica 13th, Newey after yesterday's heroics down in 14th, Eng 15th, and Scherer is going to start in 16th place. So Timo Glock now just going through all the necessary procedures before he gets out of the car, having claimed his 6th career pole position in the DTM. The onboard camera with Sheldon Van Der Linde, who is going to join him on the front row of the grid. And of course, it's well worth noting that's the first pole of the season for BMW, and not just a pole, but they've locked out the front row of the grid. René Rast in 3rd place, Ferdinand Habsburg in 4th with 129.1 and a 129.2 respectively. So it's relatively tight in terms of the times in qualifying, and pretty similar at the end of the session as it was at the end of yesterday. Actually, the lap time yesterday for pole was a 128.987. Today it's a 128.960, fractionally quicker, 27 thousandths of a second quicker. So paperwork to be signed. Timo Glock, though, the hero of the session, enjoying a very good weekend. He had the spin on the final lap, but it didn't matter, although it almost did, didn't it? Because Sheldon Van Der Linde put in a lovely lap to almost get himself onto that pole position. In the end, the gap 23 thousandths of a second, and that is not even the closest gap that we've had in qualifying this year. The closest gap came in the third weekend of the season at the Lausitz-Ring, where there were just 18 thousandths of a second between Robin Freins, who qualified on pole for that one, and Nico Müller. But it is the second closest gap that we've had this season. The biggest gap that we've had in qualifying actually came yesterday, which was over 0.3 of a second for René Rast. But a more typical, very tight qualifying session result, that. And all smiles, as you can imagine, for Timo Glock. Punches the air, clenches his fist, and takes a bow. Excellent stuff. Well done, Timo. Terrific drive, that. See the beautiful blue skies now, much brighter than we had yesterday. There is a chance of showers this afternoon, but as the day goes on, those chances diminish. So you never know. There might be one or two rain showers, but it's certainly looking like it's going to be a dry race this afternoon. With the championship points then affected by that qualifying, Nico Müller and Robin Freins don't change. They're 257 and 243 points respectively. René Rast gains a point, so up to 224 points for him, with Van der Linde 98, Rockenfeller 91, and Timo Glock picks up 3 points to move himself now up into 6th place in the championship, ahead of Loic Duval. They're 90 and 88 points respectively. So another frustrating session for Nico Müller, the championship leader. Ends up yesterday where he was, now goes through the debrief of what they could look to improve for later on. But as I say, it should be dry conditions. Right, we can hear now, though, from one of the championship contenders who's speaking down with Verena.
So I'm here with René Rast, who did a fantastic race yesterday. However, today only P3. And is it going to be an issue again? Because yesterday you were standing on the wet side in 1 and now you're 3. Is that going to be an issue again?
Actually, I was very happy when I saw that I was P2. And then it changed on my in-lap. I went to P3, which means I'm again on the left-hand side. And I was like, oh, P2 would have been so much better. But yeah, that's how it is. I think BMW today was very strong in the wet. Timo and Sheldon, so they deserve to be there. Obviously in the race they had some problems yesterday, so I hope somehow that I have a good start and can stay where I am and maybe gain some positions in the race.
And of course you're still a championship contender now, especially that Freins and Müller did not do so well. Are your hopes going all the way up?
Yeah, obviously that's the ultimate goal, to collect more points than they do. I know that in the race they are pretty strong as well. But you know, our position is better, so we have to maximize our position and hopefully make up some good ground.
All right, thank you, René. Back to the commentator.
Thanks very much, Verena. Yeah, pretty satisfied with that, I would say. René Rast, you always want to be on pole position as a driver of his stature, but yeah, I think he'll take that, and should be a really interesting start to the race, because he's going to want to try and get ahead of those two BMWs ASAP to get the advantage over his rivals as they try to come through the field. René Rast, of the 3 drivers that can still win the championship, the only one to pick up a qualifying point. Super slow-mo of him. Quick in every session so far this weekend, as he tends to be. Sheldon Van Der Linde, who scored his maiden DTM pole position here at Zolder last year, gets his second best ever qualifying result, 2nd place, and it's his best qualifying position of the season as well. He's been on the 2nd row of the grid 3 times this year, but it's his first time on the front row of the grid. Timo Glock, for him, it's his 2nd time on the front row of the grid, because he started yesterday's race from 2nd spot, but he's gone 1 better today, and we'll start this one from pole position. Top 3 in qualifying pose for a photograph opportunity. René Rast to the right, Timo Glock to the middle of the picture, and Sheldon Van Der Linde to the left. So it's turning into a very satisfying weekend, this, for BMW. And here's the man of the moment from qualifying speaking with Verena Riet.
This man has got to be really happy. Timo Glock finally got your pole position. It's the first pole position since 2018. So how excited are you, and how are you hoping for the race? I mean, obviously you're starting in the best position.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, I have to say I'm really proud of my engineering guys, Benny and Maurizio, because everyone is talking around, you know, we should use 2 sets of tires, and we said no. We had the lap time in our hand yesterday. We just got unlucky with the yellow flag, and it should work out like we did it yesterday. So we just did the plan copy-paste, just the timing slightly better, and it paid off. I mean, you know, we did the right change. The car felt good again, and in those conditions, I'm very happy to be on the top again, because it's more, you know, it relates a bit to the driver as well in these conditions, and I'm happy that, you know, I had a strong qualifying yesterday and today again.
All right, well, best of luck for the race later on. Thank you so much, Timo. And there's Sheldon Van Der Linde right away. Sheldon, over here. Hello. Hey there, congratulations. I mean, that was phenomenal. Whoop, there you are on P2. So what can you do from there?
Yeah, very happy. First of all, I have to say the team timed it perfectly over the line. I think I was the last to cross the line, and in these conditions is exactly what you need. So very happy with my balance today. Timo was flying all weekend long in the wet conditions. So just to be in the same tent as him is something special, I think. So yeah, congrats to him, congrats to Rene as well. And I think we have some good chances from the front door.
All right, well, you go for it later on. Thank you so much, Sheldon. Back to the commentator.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Yeah, good to hear from the pole sitter, Timo Glock, and just there from Sheldon Van Der Linde, seeing some super slow-mos of him in action during that fascinating, very lively 20-minute qualifying session now.
Yes, man. Really good timing. Yes, baby.
And that was the reaction on the team radio from Sheldon. A very, very joyous one, and so close to getting his second pole position. Timo Glock then, terrific effort, all smiles at BMW. And interesting to hear Timo saying, you know, we just stuck with the one set of tyres. That was, we felt we were going quick. Why change? Why bet a new set in? So let's go for that. Team Ab Sportsline, 500 points with Team Rosberg on 277 points at the top of the team standings. Team Ab Sportsline could well wrap up the team's title in the race this afternoon. So the race coming up, 55 minutes plus 1 lap. 55 minutes plus 1 lap race coming up this afternoon. Okay then, this is how they are going to shape up for the race. Timo Glock and Sheldon Van Der Linde on the front row of the grid for BMW. René Rast and Ferdinand Habsburg. Habsburg with another impressive qualifying performance. Jamie Green at last gets a good qualifying 5th place. Mike Rockenfeller in 6th. And then Nico Muller, the championship leader, and his closest rival in the points, Robin Freins, are back on the 4th row of the grid. Jonathan Aberdeen and Marco Wittmann round out the top 10. And then on the 6th row of the grid, Loic Duval and Lucas Auer, 11th and 12th respectively. They're followed by Robert Kubica in 13th, Harrison Newey, who was very quick yesterday in the dry race, in 14th place, and the final row of the grid with work to do for Philipp Eng and Fabio Scherer. Should be a fascinating race this afternoon. Timo Glock will start on pole position. That's it from me in the commentary box. Back to Verena.
So only 5 races to go in the season. That means this is getting tighter and tighter. Could be very exciting because René Rast truly is picking up the points. So let's see how the race goes. You do not want to miss this, that's for sure. So see you later, and here are the highlights. Enjoy. Bye-bye.